Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we are here going into Week 11, Friday's edition of the College Football and Basketball Blitz. Rob Browne broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota here in Wynne, Arkansas. And we got a great lineup as always. Jimmy Hodge up in Lake Zurich just checked in. Jason Caldwell, Inside the Auburn Tigers, will bat the leadoff position, talking some Tiger football and basketball with us. Segment number 2, Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, checks in from Dallas. His take on what's going on out there. As he said last week, fear the Frags, the Horned Frogs of TCU. Top of hour number 2, Bo Carter checks in also from Dallas, formerly with the Big 12 office, 12-year SID at Mississippi State, and with the Football Foundation and Baseball Writers of America. And in the 4th segment, the legend, Loran Smith. We love having Loran on. He is very busy writing a book about Georgia's national championship last year. Like I told him, if Georgia keeps playing the way they're playing, you're going to be writing another book and keep on doing it. But anyway, he'll join us. Do us a favor. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. Be glad to have you follow us. We're a sports radio show and podcast 6 days a week. That's what we do. That's who we are. I want to say happy Veterans Day to all the veterans that are active duty, retired, no matter what, whether you were deployed. Just was talking to Josh here. He was in the Marine Corps 95 to 99, in between Desert Storm and Iraqi Freedom, and was in Japan and Cherry Point. But Dave Baker as well, thanks for your service. Kurt Ham, my brother-in-law, 26 years in the Marine Corps. Holy cow, man, long list. You cannot thank these people enough. But hey, you're out today, buy them breakfast, lunch, dinner, buy them a round of drinks, but thank them and look them in the eye and let them know how much we appreciate them. Also proud to have Alabama Sports Writer of the Year, Jason Caldwell, on with us right now. You know, one thing about Jason that I love, and I think anybody listening, when you follow him and listen to what he does, he's not going to talk about things he doesn't know about, and he's not going to speculate on things when there's a lot of speculating going on. He's a truth broker. So, Jason, thanks for taking time out of your Friday to join us on Sidelines. A lot going on. Takeaway from Cadillac's first game as interim coach against Mississippi State last week. Didn't get the win, but, man, something I hadn't seen in about 2 years, an Auburn coach on the sidelines that looked like he really enjoyed being there and loved the people he was with and really loved the fans, and I think he gets Auburn.
Yeah, no, it's the difference in, a week and 5 days or whatever, pretty dramatic. It's pretty dramatic in terms of, Auburn football, Auburn in general, the atmosphere, the mood around campus, around the fan base. I mean, it's wildly different. You got a lot to do with that. And just having a guy that says, hey, I know what's important. And what's important is putting the players first and putting the coaches first and putting the fans first. I mean, that's who Cadillac. He's always been that guy. He's never been a selfish me guy, even as a player, even when he was a really good player. And I mean, people have responded. And we talked for a long time about pulling in the same direction. It's hard to find a time for me in the last 20 plus years where Auburn feels like it's pulling in the same direction as much as it is right now. I think that's due to the hire John Cohen, President Chris Roberts, and kind of the way he handled things in his search for an athletic director. I think it's all of the above. And now, obviously that what happens on the field, I mean, it's important, but what's happening off the field and kind of the buzz surrounding Auburn football is, I mean, it's even more important. I mean, they sold out a game between 2, 3, and 6 teams on Saturday night. My guess is there's going to be more than 100 former players on the sidelines, and there's more 4- and 5-star recruits coming to Auburn for Texas A&M than there are to Ole Miss for the Alabama game. I mean, without a head coach, that tells you all you need to know about the future and the potential of the program.
Well, Jason, Auburn's program so well. You, Mark Murphy, Stat Tiger, Philip Marshall. That's the crew that y'all are. That's why we have you on here every week, because you get it and you get Auburn. And, hey, I don't wish bad on I don't wake up and say my prayers and wish anything bad to happen to anybody. But, it's not a good fit. It's not a good fit. And, Bryan Harsin, he'll get a $15.3 million buyout, and all those assistants, they make a lot of money. But now you got a guy that no matter what happens, I hope Cadillac is part of Auburn going forward, because he and Zach Etheridge and the guys on that staff, Jimmy Brumbaugh, that are Auburn men, that doesn't automatically make you qualified to be a coach at Auburn, but they understand the culture. And you're right. I hadn't seen it in a long time. Auburn this united. Going forward, regardless, do you see Cadillac being a part of the Auburn staff? I don't know who the coach is going to be. There's a lot of names out there, but what they're doing in recruiting, you just gave those numbers. It's been a while. And my son Wilson sent me a text last night that Tank Bigsby did a tour of the new football facility. He said Tank was almost in tears. And Wilson keeps up with Jamie and Sherwood. All these guys. He just graduated from Auburn. He keeps up with these guys. And I think the greatest thing about, I'll say that he's my son, but at the Penn State game in the fourth quarter, it wasn't going well. And I was there. Always stay. You got to stay a full 60 if you expect the team to play a full 60. And he was at the game, and I said, "You're still here?" And he said, "You're damn right I am." Well, that's what you're going to see tomorrow night, with this Texas A&M crowd. But I'm just curious. I'm getting real wound up about this. Do you see Cadillac going forward? Please tell me he's going to be a part of the program.
Well, that's only the decision that the new coach could make. But I would be surprised. I'd be surprised if he's not still on the staff when the time comes. You're right. That love, the foundation that he's set. It feels like he's done more in a week than Bryan Harsin did in 2 years to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last night I was at Tiger Talk on location at Baumhauer's Victory Grill here in Auburn.
Yeah.
And I did a short video of him walking in the door, and he got a standing ovation, people high-fiving, clapping, doing those things. And there was one response that said, "Is that how far we've fallen that a video of a head coach getting a standing ovation is worth this much attention?" Exactly. That's exactly how far it had fallen. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
That's the whole point when you have somebody that doesn't. And here's the thing. And Gus Malzahn was not Bryan Harsin. Gus Malzahn did not get the importance of being a guy that connects with fans either. It's just not his personality.
Yeah.
Much different guy than Bryan Harsin. I'm not saying there's similar, but so it's been a long time. It's been a long time since you had a head coach go, "Hey, I'm embracing you guys. This is who you are, how important you are." And in just a few days to have somebody do that, man, it's changed everything. And so, yes, that was exactly the point of it, that that's how far the disconnect had gotten between the Auburn head football coach and the Auburn fan base.
Yeah. And you look, I've been to a bunch of games this year, and there's just the fans are just starved. And I was talking to Ralph Jordan Jr. He was at the Tiger Tailgate show before the Arkansas game, and he and his wife Eve, and I love them to death. And they're just and Ralph looked at me and talked about, it's been a rough season. He looked at me and he says, "As Daddy used to say, this too shall soon pass, my son." And he said, "It's going to be all right." But that's what you get. And to get that kind of a reaction, Cadillac, watching him coming off the field in Starkville, he was just emotional. I think it hit him after the game. He's an interim coach, but to have that responsibility, and man, has it been, you don't like losing, but when someone genuinely loves what they do and they do what they love, wow. You think recruits aren't catching up on that, Jason?
Yeah. And I think you look at it, and I think for recruits, it's more about the connection with the fan base, and obviously Cadillac and the staff have continued to work and bring those guys in. But, people ask, how do you how do you bridge the gap between the previous staff and the new staff? Well, this is how you do it, by selling out a stadium, by having energy surrounding the program still, and by showing guys that, look, you're going to be taken care of no matter what. You're going to have to be supported no matter what. And this is the ultimate response to that. I think the fans have done a great job. And like I said, Cadillac's been the catalyst in Zach Etheridge. And, hey, here's the thing. I give a ton of credit to Will Friend and Ike Hilliard and Rock Bellantoni and Jeff Schmetting for the way the defense played. It's not just the Auburn guys. Those other guys have stayed the course and said, you know what, we're here. And I thought that was really impressive last week.
Yeah, and I do not want to be disrespectful for that. You're right. What Will Friend and Ike Hilliard, Will's from Neshoba County High School, Philadelphia, Mississippi. I've run that Hardy-Dixie triathlon over there many times. His dad was a great high school coach over there. Ike Hilliard from right outside of New Orleans. Of course, he played at Florida. And all those coaches, Jeff, you're right. Give them all credit. But, and that doesn't guarantee Auburn's going to win tomorrow night. But, again, wow, when you look at what the number of people that I've talked to and you talked to that are doing things behind the scenes to try to help Auburn, and then you got someone like Cadillac who actually says thank you. He gets it, and so that's a powerful statement. Jimmy Hodge jumping here with Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers on this Friday edition of Sidelines.
Well, Jason, what I've seen is that no matter who the coach is, this roster will fight you for the entire duration, just like in the Ole Miss game when it looked like Auburn was going to get run out of the stadium. They fought back, made it a really competitive game. The onside kick, I guess, was the turning point that allowed Ole Miss to kind of pull away. But then last week, once again, Auburn gets behind big. They come back. They're playing hard every play. It goes to overtime, and it just shows you, I think, the character and the fighting spirit of this team. And it seems like that they've done a really good job in just putting that outside stuff aside and just trying to, get better. And once they turn on the lights, put on the uniforms and tee it up, they're giving it everything that they have. And that's been an impressive aspect of this team. But I'm going to get the $64,000 question that a lot of the Auburn fans want to hear. Who are the leading candidates in your mind? And I don't want you stick your neck out, but do you have a gut feeling on who it might be?
Yeah, no, I don't really have a gut feeling because this is going to be John Cohen's call. And so I don't really know what he feels like in terms of fit. He mentioned fit. He mentioned the importance of recruiting in that 350-mile circle that we've talked about. Those are two things that you have to hear in terms of Auburn football. And so the one thing I think is that I think it's somebody that has been in this league before. I think that's an important part of things. I think that is huge in terms of Auburn because of who you're recruiting against every day. So I feel like it's somebody that knows the league. And so you start to narrow that down from there. What we don't know is criteria in terms of, will it absolutely positively be a guy that has head coaching experience? I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that that's where John Cohen is either. You look at success stories in college football. There's a bunch of them that did not have head coaching experience before they took their current job. And two of the biggest ones are Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart. Dan Lanning's right there now. I mean, there's others. So there's no magic dust that you throw on and go, oh, this automatically means they're going to be good. But you got to feel like at this point, Lane Kiffin's a guy that probably has to, and I don't say he has to turn you down, but he's one of the guys that you have to look at and you have to kind of work through. I think there's a lot of support for Hugh Freeze. I think he's a guy that's going to be involved because obviously the guy that you start talking about what it takes to succeed right now in college football, quarterback development is about as important as anything. Now, recruiting is huge, and you got to be able to recruit at a high level through traditional means and through the portal, but developing quarterback and having the ability to be able to put together some schemes in the passing game to be successful. It's one of the biggest things you can have right now. I mean, just look at the difference in Georgia the last couple of years and opening up the offense, even with all the talent they had. And look at the difference in Alabama. All of a sudden you take away a couple of wide receivers and they, not quite as easy to throw the football and people are questioning now. They're still a loaded roster. So you got to do all those things. So I think those two guys for me, I mean, there's going to be Deion Sanders talk. He'll be a guy that I'm sure you probably talk to. I feel like the other guys probably maybe a little bit more, but we don't know from the assistant route that, how that impacts things. And I know that, a guy like Dan Lanning, you always say the right things. That's what coaches should say, and I would expect them to say. I mean, he may be a guy that gets a phone call as well. Maybe not him, but his agent. So I don't know. This is one that you feel like right now is probably now going to start to kick in. I think it's been really preliminary. You now have, 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to go. All right, let's see what happens. And so I think it'll start to really kick into high gear now moving forward.
Yeah. Let me say this real quick before the break. A good message on here on the screen. This will remain the land of the free only so long as it is the home of the brave. Thank you, veterans, for your bravery, hard work, and dedication to our country. We thank you, and God bless America. All right, we're going to be right back with Jason Caldwell, Inside the Auburn Tigers, Jimmy Hodge, Rob Browne, talking college football, Auburn Tigers, and the SEC after this 1 minute timeout on Friday's edition of Sidelines.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
Now more than ever, it is so important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. God bless the USA.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. And at Hewlett & Dunn, man, if you are looking for gifts coming up here anytime, Christmas is right upon us, hewlettanddunn.com. That is one of the coolest stores you'll ever go into. It's a place where you would run into someone like John Wayne, or Ronald Reagan, or Elvis. Got ripped from Yellowstone. I think he would shop there as well. But anyway, hewlettanddunn.com. Proud to have him as a sponsor, as we are. Haygood, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson, and Short. They've been the law in Auburn since 1959. At some point, we're all going to need an attorney. If you need an attorney, give them a call. I've known Phil Thompson, one of the partners there, for 40 years. I would trust that guy. They are the law in Auburn. They're great people to work with. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Jason, we're talking about football, Auburn basketball, man. Had a game this week, and man, my phone was blowing up. A lot of people were there. The line of people camping out. It's just the way it is now to get tickets. And I want your takeaway from what you saw. A lot of new guys coming in. The guards are back, but there's no Jabari Smith, no Walker Kessler, but a couple of constants are. Coach Bruce Pearl is going to get those guys fired up. To get up in the morning the whole day. Second thing is the jungle, that Auburn arena, Neville Arena, is one of the toughest places to play in college or NBA.
Yeah, no, it's a fun environment. now. And I talked to folks that walked in the door the other night and said, opening night, playing George Mason, and it's a tough ticket. Said as hard as Saturday's football ticket is, Friday night's basketball ticket's tougher, and I never would have imagined that in my lifetime. Of being around Auburn, but that's the reality. And credit to Bruce Pearl, his staff, the players that laid the foundation for what they've done. And now you look at where you are. It's have people concerned because you only win by 17, 18 points against a pretty good George Mason team.
Yeah,
that's where you've gotten the expectations for Auburn basketball. And this team is going to be different. And it's going to be, I think, more inside out than Bruce Pearl teams people are used to. It's not going to be a great 3-point shooting team at this point. I don't imagine. If it becomes a great 3-point shooting team, then this team's going to have a chance to make a deep run because they've got the pieces inside. Janai Browne is a transfer from Morehead State that just kind of coming back from an ankle injury, so he didn't have the lift that he had in preseason. That'll come, and when it does, he's going to be a finisher around the rim. But you got Jalen Williams and Johan Traore and Dylan Caldwell. You got this team that has size inside and athletic guys. Getting Chance Westry on the court is going to be big. He's probably the best shooter on this team, and he's been out with after having a little knee procedure. But he practiced this week and getting closer. My guess is probably next week for him to kind of get a few minutes here or there. But this team's they're going to get after you defensively. They're going to ball hawk you, and they're going to not be a whole lot of fun to play. And so that is kind of classic Bruce Pearl. When you Wendell Green and Zep Jasper and KD Johnson and Chris Moore, those kind of guys, Alan Flanagan, they got some guys that are going to create some havoc defensively. So that's going to be I think the trademark of this basketball team moving forward this year.
Yeah, and you think about the way the Auburn team last year had all the guards. They were not big, and that was the problem. They got in that game against Miami. They played a 4-guard lineup, and Auburn lost by 19, 20 points. What is better about this team than you saw last year that won the SEC championship at a 14-4, 15-3 record? And what concerns you the most, other than you don't think right now they're going to be a great 3-point shooting team as of today?
Yeah, that's probably the only concern I look at. You got more options with bigger guards. Trey Donaldson can play the point, and this is a former football recruit. He has a Doc Robinson feel to me when I think about him going. He's a leader. He's probably more athletic than Doc was, to be quite honest, but he has that feel of a guy that's a classic point guard. Again, Chance Westry's a bigger guard. You got Alan Flanagan and Chris Moore. This team has more options than last year did, and that's probably the key. But no question, I'll look at this team going. There's still question marks about shooting, but it's also one game in, and so I think they're going to have more options than they did a year ago.
Okay. Well, one more thing. When you look at this group of recruits that are coming in, you say it's an impressive list. Are a lot of these guys, maybe some people, it's sort of like when a guy gets fired in a sales position and all of a sudden they redistribute his accounts and all of a sudden you start calling them and they're going, I hadn't heard from anybody in a couple of years or whatever. Is that kind of what's going on in recruiting? Because this list of people coming to Jordan-Hare Stadium and they need to get the message out. We got a lot of the players on there call it Jordan-Hare. It is I've talked to Ralph Jordan-Hare Stadium, but Jason, you have done a great job of reporting this. Man, this is an impressive list, and it could get a lot better.
Yeah, no. The funny thing is that it's actually guys that have made multiple visits that are still coming back, and
wow,
that's the thing about it. And that's where I talk about Auburn. This is about Auburn. This is why when you hear the players, and you hear Cadillac, and you hear guys that played there before say Auburn sells itself. This is the definition of that. This is the definition of Auburn selling itself, because these guys are coming back. And the really interesting thing about recruiting right now is that you've got a bunch of guys that have taken official visits already that can now take another official visit to Auburn. So James Smith and Quay Russaw and Jelani Tank Thurman, Bo Hughley, these guys that have visited, Reuben Bain, most of those guys are going to be back this weekend. They've already taken an official visit to Auburn. Now, because of a coaching change, when a new coach is hired, those guys could take another official visit to Auburn in December. That's a big deal. And so, no, it's just guys getting back, coming back. And, you think about 5 stars in James Smith, Quay Russoff. Those guys are back Saturday. That'll be the 5th game they've been to at Jordan-Hare Stadium. There'll be 7 home games. They've been to 5 of them. Yeah. People question whether does Auburn really have a shot? That's all the shot I need right there when they've been here 5 times in one season. You get the right coach in place and that build on the energy that's being built right now. And they could make an impact pretty quickly in this recruiting class for 2023.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, Jason, thank you so much for taking time out of your Friday to join us. Always love having you. Great, realistic insight and optimism, man. It's been a while. Tell people how they can follow you and all the great work that you do. You put a ton of stuff out every single day of the week.
Yeah, you can check us out at Auburn Undercover, autigers.com, and Auburn 247. Also follow me on Twitter at ITATJason, and people check back today because we're getting a media tour of the new football facility. So we're going to have photo gallery, video tour, kind of those things on the site later this afternoon. So we'll have more even on a Friday. So check back in this afternoon.
Oh, always. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, Jason. See you next week.
See you.
All right. Man, I tell you what, Ken Capps is on here with us right now. And Ken, and Jimmy, you may have been to this place before. And Ken, we couldn't hear you there a minute ago. We had to mute you. But and Doug Dean is going to join us here for about a 5-minute call here if he can get in. There's a Tex-Mex restaurant you're at right now. And back down, it's kind of hard to hear. We can hardly hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Is that better?
A little bit better. It's just what is the name of this place? Because Jimmy, you may have been there.
Okay, so I'm over here at Cisco's on the east side of Austin, Texas, and it is the very best Tex-Mex breakfast in Austin, Texas, USA. It opened in 1951. I think my buddies Bo Carter and Bill Hancock ate the first breakfast tacos here. And back in the last century, this place was known for it wasn't the state capitol across Interstate 35 where things got done. This is where things got done. President Johnson came in here, Lyndon Johnson, Governor George Bush came in here, Governor Ann Richards came in here, and around these tables and around these Christmas lights you see here in the wall, this is where Texas law got passed and got done. So I love to come in here and get migas every time I'm down in Austin for a football game. And so I thought I wanted to introduce you and Jimmy to this place. And anytime you come down to Austin, just tell them Ken sent you and I'll send you a plate of migas.
I love it. Jimmy, have you been to Cisco's before?
No, I have not. My mainstays were always Taco Cabana and Chewy's. And then in San Antonio, there was, for me, Las Palapas. Those are probably my 3 spots. But, when you describe the luminaries that got things done, Ken, that sounds like the walls could tell a lot of stories.
Well, let me tell you what. I was in here one day when I was still in school. So I went to Texas, full disclosure, 1978 to 1982. And one day I came in here. Now think about the celebrity luminaries. One day I came in here. You had Earl Campbell. You had Ben Crenshaw, golfer, when he was in his prime. And you had Christopher Cross. I know Rob Browne is a Christopher Cross man.
He's the patron saint of Yacht Rock.
Yacht Rock, baby. And that was right after he'd won his 5 Grammys for that album. Yeah. They were all 3 in this room. And you know what the great part was? Nobody, and I mean nobody, was bugging these guys. They were at their table, just having their meal, and it was just another day in Austin, Texas. So I wanted to introduce everybody to this. And like I say, you guys let me know. I live in Dallas, as you know, but you guys, ever want to come down to Austin, I'll meet you down here and take you to Cisco's.
Oh, well, no, we'll be out there. Hey, Ken, hang with us for a second. We're going to bring in Doug Dean. He's got something he wants to put out of the AU Dose down in Birmingham, and then we're going to get back and talk college football, which is what we love doing. And Bo Carter's on right after you, and after that is Loran Smith. Doug, welcome to Sidelines on this Friday. Ken is at Cisco's famous Tex-Mex restaurant in Austin, Texas, and I'm getting hungry listening to him, but I want to hear what you got to say.
Can you hear me, Rob?
Oh, yeah, we got you.
Okay, this is quick, but this was so delicious as a stat, and even Stat Tiger probably has not landed on this, that it just had to be documented for posterity about when former coach Brian Harsin, in the course of his 21 games, guys, on the coin toss, Harsin was 2-19. I mean, that is like trying to take a banana on a fishing charter boat. The captain will throw you overboard. If you know that superstition. That's like going into Vegas and you're standing next to somebody that has lost like 20 straight poker hands or blackjack hands. We should have fired Harsin after 10 games. It was just destined. Even the odds-making gods do not like Harsin in a 50-50 coin flip.
Well, I agree. I mean, we just had Jason Caldwell on, and just already you can just see the optimism and the list of recruits that are coming in for the Texas A&M game at Jordan-Hare Stadium this weekend. There are more 4- and 5-star players coming to that than there are coming to Oxford for the Ole Miss Alabama game.
And so, adding to that, and we understand we were sitting here with 3 wins. There's a reason you fire coaches. So
sure.
I have no claim to anything magical happening this year, and it won't even be that shocking if we're not quite good enough to beat a pretty mediocre Aggies team. But I wouldn't bet in this environment, which is going to be electric. I already know that much. It's a sellout. I'd be careful betting against Auburn. I just wouldn't put a lot of money on it. But the signal, not the noise, and I'll get out of y'all's way, is there's positivity. There's positive energy between the coaching search and between the unveiling now of this football-only facility, which is being hailed as one of the top maybe 4 or 5 such facilities in the country. NIL is getting its act together. So there's a lot of reason to move Auburn to the buy list, not the sell list.
Yeah, I've been talking with people like you have with Auburn NIL, and there's On to Victory, and there's Ever to Conquer. Like I said, get your licks in on Auburn now while you can, because the hall pass is about to be up. It's things you can feel the changing. I mean, hey, you put junk in your head, junk out, positive in, positive out. But Doug, that stat right there is pretty cool. And
it's
you know what?
Funny.
Yeah, it is funny. But hey, thanks for checking in. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
Y'all enjoy the football weekend.
All right, thanks you. You too. All right, let's get back to Cisco's. Ken, we just I know it gets a little bit loud, so just make sure you're speaking. But tell us,
sir.
You had something. Last week we had the Commander-in-Chief trophy in Arlington there. They started the game at like 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the morning. If you can, you might want to move, okay, where we can hear you better. But the whole thing about Texas, what you talked about, Jimmy lived out there. I've been out there a number of times. What's going on at Texas? They got TCU this weekend. Gary Patterson's old school.
Well, and again, that's why I'm down here. It's this town is humming. This is the biggest game in Austin since LSU and Joe Burrow came to town 3 years ago. It was Joe Burrow versus Sam Ehlinger, and LSU pulled it out in the last few minutes. This is the second time that game day is coming to town. Only place it's been 2 times this year. And, my wife is a TCU grad, so we're a house divided this week. Yeah. And, but think about it. We talked about this last week. TCU got its wish. It moved into the top 4 of the CFP ratings at 9-0. Yeah. And so they're exactly where they want to be. And Texas, on the other hand, scratched and clawed and knocked the ball out of Adrian Martinez's hands with 24 seconds to play. And the Horns beat Kansas State 34-27, breaking that embarrassing and frustrating losing streak of losing 6 in a row when leading in halftime. I mean, it could have been 7 very easily. But thank God, the Texas defense rallied. And the way I looked at that game at the very end, the Texas defense was really playing with the gift of desperation. They were playing so hard, they almost overplayed it. But they recovered that fumble. They knocked the ball out of his hands, Martinez's hands, and they won. So, here we go. Let's harken back to the first time game day was here.
Ken, hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break because this is what I love about having you on. It just adds to this symphony of great college football minds. Right after this break, more Ken Capps out in Austin at Cisco's Tex-Mex.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Ken, getting hungry. Just thinking about this place because I love to eat good food. In fact, Ken, we have 2 members of the Cherry Farm Hunting Club up here in Parkin, Arkansas, from Lake Charles, Louisiana. And last night they made Cavillon, which is just, as Frank Duffy, who is a Cajun man himself from New Orleans, calls it fish stew, but it was blackened bass with Miss Rubin's rubs. We used Miss Rubin's Black Magic, Miss Rubin's Creole Magic, and I'm going to tell you what, Black Magic, Creole, and Fish Magic. Mixed it all in there in a cast iron skillet, then let it set, and wow, it was just dripping in juices. And then the holy trinity of bell peppers, celery, and onions. Let that cook with a picante sauce and water, served it over a bed of rice. And I'm going to tell you what, you can't beat great food. And where you are out there in Austin, you got a lot of it. Do you ever go, by the way, to Franklin's Barbecue? I heard that place. Remember, we've seen them on the TV commercial, but Jimmy, maybe one of y'all said this. There's a street. It's not 6th Street. Is it Market Street, where they've got all the old houses they turned into restaurants and bars, where they've got great outdoor barbecue out there and brisket?
Well, there's every place you go. I mean, you can throw a rock in any direction and get good barbecue around here. And I mean, Franklin's is good. What's funny about that? They will sell. If the lines are so long to get in there, they will sell you a lawn chair so you can sit in while you're in line. And they also sell beer and sodas in line, because it can be like a 2, 3, 4 hour wait to get in there. But my personal favorite is the Salt Lick, which is out in Driftwood, Texas, which is not very far from here. But they serve family style. And when I say they serve family style, I mean they don't hold back anything. And so yeah, I mean if you want to make this a barbecue show, we can sure do it right now. Jimmy, when's the last time you've been to Austin?
I have not been to Austin in, probably over 10 years. My daughter was born at Seton Medical Center. And So I spent a lot of time down there. I actually lived 2 different times in San Antonio, and then I lived in Kyle. My wife worked actually right across the street from the state capitol. But the music scene was absolutely incredible. As a matter of fact, I went to a Texas-Houston game in 2000, and it was a night game, but my wife and I came down early. We're hanging around 6th Street, and this guy told us, hey, you guys probably don't know this, but Johnny Winter's playing at a local spot. And after the game, we went down there, and good grief, Johnny Winter, man. I mean, the music scene there is amazing. And if there's anybody out there that are big music aficionados, you have to go to South by Southwest in March, mid-March every year, because it's a 2-week festival and there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Finished having ACL here too, which was the weekend. There were 2 weekends. It was Texas OU weekend, and it was the weekend after. And they have just bands and bands and bands for 2 weekends. And, it's as hot as ticket as there is to a Texas football game, probably more. So, okay, back to football. Let's talk Texas and TCU.
Ken, let me ask you something. And I agree with you. Now, you said this is the biggest game in Austin since the LSU game in 2019, which, by the way, a little bit of footnote idiot savant trivia that only my goofy brain can come up with. Did you know that in 130 years of playing college football, that was the first time in LSU's history they'd ever won a true road game against a top 10 opponent when they won out in Austin? And the other thing was, what about the Alabama game earlier this year? That had to be a big one.
Absolutely. And, here we were, Texas this close to possibly winning that game. And, the controversial safety of, was Bryce Young down in the end zone? Was his knee down? Did he throw the ball away? And, people are still talking about that play. But you know what I always say, guys, if you have to blame the officials, you don't get any, I don't listen to you, because you have to play through all that.
That's right.
But let's talk about this game. Okay, so TCU is 9-0. Texas comes in. All they have to do is win out. They've still got Baylor. They've still got Kansas. And if they win out these 3 games, they will be in the Big 12 championship game. Now, that's a far cry from 5-7 and losing 6 in a row last year. Okay, now TCU can still lose this game, and they can still be in the Big 12 championship game. So we may play this whole game again in December. And this has happened to Texas once before, where they beat Oklahoma in the regular season, then played them again in Arlington in the Big 12 championship game. And, of course, OU came back and beat them and went on to play in the CFP. So a lot riding on this game. You've got 2 great running backs in this game. Max Duggan of TCU is not afraid to play Texas whatsoever. He beat him last year. And, of course, here's the other thing that my wife will like to tell you. In the last 10 games of TCU and Texas, TCU has owned Texas 8-2. And who is the coach of that team? That would be one Gary Patterson, who is now the defensive assistant at the University of Texas at Austin.
Yeah. And they built a statue to him out in front of Amon G. Carter Stadium there in Fort Worth. But one thing before I toss it back to Jimmy is the Big 12, there's some really important games, and it's really relevant what's going on out there. Now you got TCU in that top 4. They win tomorrow, but again, they still have to play Baylor. They've got tough closing 3 games, but it's just important, and it's great to see college football right there in the heart of America being super relevant. And thank God we got you reporting on it from Cisco's Tex-Mex out in Austin, Texas. Jimmy, jump back in here. Okay. Well, we lost Jimmy there for a second. But when you look, Ken, at the big picture, this game tomorrow with Texas, if Texas plays for the Big 12 championship, somehow wins it, I mean, this is year 2 for Steve Sarkisian. and the standards, Texas is one of the top 4 or 5 winningest programs of all time in college football. I wonder, and I'm just curious, with the momentum that they're getting and what's going on in College Station, what you see happening, because it's favoring Texas right now because they've got a new coach and they're building up. A win tomorrow could be ginormous for them compared to what's going on in College Station. It kind of makes sense out of that.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what's happening. There are several ginormous. That's a 12-year-old word for my daughter Caroline. There are several ginormous recruits out of this number 1 recruiting class out of A&M who are decommitting, and several of those recruits have already put Texas at number one on their list, and Texas is trying like the devil right now to flip them. And I mean, boy, if they can flip 2 or 3 of those top recruits, it would just be amazing. And I mean, Texas is on a roll right now in recruiting. Arch Manning coming in January. He's coming into school early. It was reported this week that he would not be opposed to redshirting this coming fall. I mean, the Mannings don't need NIL money right now. I think he's already got $5 million in NIL money as it is, and so he doesn't mind, watching Sarkisian and learning from Sarkisian. Quinn plays another year. Who knows? Quinn may go to the NFL the next year. So I think a win tomorrow would be really great. And by the way, Texas has not beaten a top 5. I didn't know this stat. And I was in the stands for this game. Texas has not beaten a top 5 team at home since 1999 when Major Applewhite, remember that name? Great Major Applewhite beat number 3 Nebraska 24-20. That's the last time Texas has beaten a top 5 team at home.
Well, I mean, wins over top 5 teams at home on the road are hard to come by, but you look at that again, that stat on LSU, 130 years, 1 victory on the road. Now they've got plenty of them on the road against SEC teams in the top 10, but this is a really big game. Let's switch gears. I want to ask you about another future SEC school, Oklahoma. I think the Sooners are sitting there at 6-3, and it's just the world we live in, Ken. And that is, again, a word my kids gave me, ginormous. I'm not sure it's in the dictionary, but ginormous, I like it. A ginormous amount of interest for the Oklahoma Sooner football program, as there is at Oklahoma State. But Bedlam's going away. The Sooners 6-3, first year under Brent Venables. To hear people say, well, he's gone, they're nuts. He was there 13 years at Oklahoma, went to Clemson for 10, came back. He had 22 of the most critically important players on the team enter the portal and go out to Southern Cal with Lincoln Riley. Kind of give me a health checkup, health report on what's going on with Oklahoma as again, that clock's ticking closer to them getting into the SEC. But 51 conference championships, 7 Heisman Trophy winners, 7 national championships. Man, Boomer Sooner ain't going anywhere. I don't think.
They're not. Well, and when after Texas had beat them 49-0, the largest beatdown of Oklahoma in the 100+ year history of the rivalry, it was like the Titanic had sunk in Norman, Oklahoma. And I think I said on the show after that week, you better get your punches in on Oklahoma right now because they're going to be back. And I always liked it when people were describing Venables. I mean, everybody, it's always easy to pile on the new guy. And I remember when somebody said about Venables, he's an outsider. Well, just like you said, he's not an outsider. He had been with Stoops for many, many years. He had led that defense. Their defense always scared me, man. They always came out and played with their hair on fire and with so much intensity. He wins a national championship with Dabo. He wins a national championship with Stoops. I'm not worried about Brent Venables at all, and he's going to hit the transfer portal really hard in January.
Yeah, I agree. Carrie Jones, listener, says enjoy the show. Thanks for listening, Carrie. And I'm with you. Jimmy's back with us. I think Jimmy went in and had to order some FedEx something from the Tex-Mex place where you are right now, Cisco's, because man, I'm looking and just hearing about the food that they make out there, and I'm really all I've had this morning is a bagel. And by the way, Jimmy and Ken, tell me this isn't an old retro term. My wife this morning gets up and goes, I'm spying that sweater over there. Ken, do you remember the term spying?
We're about the same age.
Yeah. Spying. Like, I'm spying that sweater of yours. I'm going, holy cow, I hadn't heard that one in a while. But anyway.
I still say groovy, okay? So,
yeah, There you go. Or gnarly. There we go. Jimmy, jump back in here with Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, out at Cisco's Tex-Mex in Austin, Texas, deep in the heart of Texas, the capital city.
Yeah, Ken, what I wanted to ask you was in regard to this TCU situation, you're exactly right. They got what they wanted. They're number 4 in the college football playoff rankings. And now they have the road game at Texas, followed by a road game at Baylor. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they lost both of those games. But
really?
Let's just say for because Baylor and TCU aren't exactly bosom buddies. And the Bears will not be rolling out the red carpet for their visit either. So, and plus they've got a really solid program under Dave Aranda. So let's say for the sake of argument, if TCU split those 2 games, it's likely they're going to beat Iowa State at home and then go on and win the Big 12 championship game. Will 12-1 get them in over, let's say, if, for the sake of argument, I know I'm really stretching, but Ohio State lost to Michigan? I would have to think that an Ohio State loss to Michigan automatically knocks them out because their strength of schedule is like 0. Whereas TCU, from that standpoint in the Big 12, the league from top to bottom is as evenly matched as I can ever remember it. That would certainly give them an advantage over Ohio State. I mean, would you think? And then one other thing, don't you think Gary Patterson would? It would be hard to have a bigger, I guess, thrill to his coaching career to be able to devise a defensive scheme, and he devised a great one against Alabama to stop this TCU juggernaut and knock them out of the playoff.
He would love it, and that was one thing I was remembering this morning too, and I was getting ready for the show. Gary Patterson being 8-2 the last 10 years against Texas. Anytime during Big 12 media days, you would ask Gary Patterson about beating Texas. Man, he was like a bird dog who had just found his bird. He would just get up there and crow. He loved talking about beating Texas because he had no love for Texas at all. And so, he would love it. And like I've told you guys, we at the Football Writers, we vote on the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year award. And I'm up there with Sonny Dykes. I mean, I think he's right there in the thick of it for Coach of the Year. But of course, Gary Patterson would love that. And if you got to stop the run, and I mean, how do you stop Max Duggan too? I mean, he runs, he throws, and he's the little train that could. But I don't want my clothes out on the street when I get back to Dallas on Sunday. But I don't think if TCU loses, they're in the top 4. I really don't. And I know that's going to make them mad. And I know that, I told you last week that a real horned frog spits blood when it's mad out of its eyes. But really, and a little nature lesson there. But yeah. I just don't think that happens. I just don't think that happens.
Well, look, we're about to go to a break. TCU, Texas, that's what we love about college football. Again, we're SEC based, but we're nationwide. Talking about, SEC and your favorite team. This is a big one. I will definitely be spying the color TV tomorrow when that one is on. And, it's going to be 100,000 plus at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium. You got to love it. We're going to talk more college football right after this quick commercial break.
Hey everyone, my name is David Wisdom.
And I'm Shelby McNeil, and we're attorneys with Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short, your local Auburn law firm. Established in 1959 right in the heart of Auburn, Haggard, Cleveland, Pierce, Thompson & Short has grown in response to our clients' legal needs. We're a full-service law firm focusing on the legal issues our clients face.
We take pride in providing our clients with exceptional legal services, ongoing communication, and skilled representation. If you have any questions about our services, please give us a call or visit our website today.
Okay, Rob Browne back here with you. Ken Capps, Jimmy Hodge, and we are talking a lot of college football. Ken, you're looking here, last week, Tennessee, Georgia. Georgia took care of business. They didn't like being bounced from 1 to 3 when the playoff rankings came out. Tomorrow, you got several interesting games. Georgia's got to travel to Mississippi State, and LSU's got to play at Arkansas, the 11 a.m. game. I always like to say it favors the visiting team. Jimmy doesn't agree on this one, and Las Vegas only has the LSU Tigers as a 3-point favorite. What do you think is going to happen in Fayetteville tomorrow at 11 with the Razorbacks and the Tigers?
Well, I just want to say one thing about last week, and I was glad to be 100% right because I thought I would be. What did I say about Stetson Bennett in Georgia? Stetson being the guy that's not getting any of the credit still. Yeah. And he just took it to Georgia. And I was really proud of him. And he just keeps doing it, man. He just keeps doing it. I think LSU wins. I have a lot of Alabama kinfolk, and I mean they weren't even upset after that win. I think that they just kind of acquiesced that this is not Alabama's year. And once again I told them, oh my gosh, Alabama's lost 2 games for the first time in forever. Every team in America still wants to be Alabama. Yeah. But boy, Brian Kelly, remember about 3 or 4 games ago, everybody was down on Brian Kelly, and now he's the pride of the Bayou. So I think that LSU takes care of business tomorrow. I don't think Georgia has any problem with the Pirate. I think Georgia's right on track again. Their defense is just too good to let anybody score, or let anybody win. And that's the same thing with Texas. Texas has got to get over this thing where they let everybody come back on them in the second half. And remember, TCU, they're the comeback kids. They come back on everybody all year. That's why they keep storming their field, because they come back and win. Yeah.
Well, Audrey has a thing about frogs. There's a liquor store on the way back over the ridge called Hilltop Liquors, and there's a frog in there, and he's in a lounge chair like he's at the beach and all. And she wants to go put a Christmas hat on him. And maybe this is if the Frogs keep winning, Fear the Frog is going to be a nationwide phenomenon, kind of like when Elvis got on TV on the Ed Sullivan. There's going to be a really big shoe today here, but this one's going to reverberate. LSU, Arkansas, Georgia at Mississippi State, Brian Kelly, all this crazy stuff. There's a lot of storylines, but one thing I agree, the people that were going off on Brian Kelly after they lost the first game, oh, he's not going to make it. I mean, these people that react like this, obviously they're not on their meds. They're in the nervous hospital or something, but they've never competed in anything in their lives. And it really is a little bit, it's fun to watch them be proved wrong. But Brian Kelly, I think he's 2 games behind. Now, obviously, Nick Saban has 7 national championships, but overall number of wins, Brian Kelly's won everywhere that he's ever coached. And hey, Bo Carter's on here with us right now out in Dallas. Bo, as you can see on Sidelines version of Hollywood Squares, we have over in the right corner, Jonathan Winters. Up above him, Robin Williams. We've got Paul Lynn here, and who Audrey was telling me about that another one of the regulars on there. Was it Carol Channing, or was it Paul? No, it was Paul Lynn. But anyway, having a great version of Sidelines football and basketball squares. Jump in here, Bo Carter. We're talking how the Big 12 right now, that game tomorrow, Texas and TCU, that's what the Big 12 wants. You worked in the Big 12 office for a long time, but I love to see college football good all across America. I'm not a socialist by any means, but it's important because the more interest there is in college football, it makes America a better country.
Rob and Jimmy, too, you guys, your ears were burning probably last Saturday. Ken and I were at the breakfast special, 10:30 a.m. Central Air Force Army game. And
cool.
We were talking about the sideline show and remembering a great ball game. No offense, but
well, thank you so much.
3 hours and 4 minutes. No, but as you say, Ken's been worried about the TCU Texas game all week, so we're going to let him. By tomorrow night, he'll be relieved a little bit. But it's the premier game in the nation, ABC prime time, and it's Sonny Dykes. It just hasn't playing well enough to win.
Yeah, I mean it is. And Jimmy, jump in here with us. We're talking with Bo Carter. We got Ken Capps, college football and basketball Friday blitz on Sidelines, and Jimmy. You look at if TCU wins this game tomorrow and Georgia keeps winning, what does this do to the SEC for getting in 2 teams? Because Michigan and Ohio State, obviously one of those 2, barring a disaster, Jimmy, is going to be in the playoffs. But this is every weekend we keep saying this is the big one, but it's just another big one, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think TCU has to go 13-0 to get in. Anything short of that, I think, will knock them out. If TCU doesn't make it, then I think it's all but certain you'll have 2 SEC teams in, most likely Tennessee and Georgia. The only thing at this point in time that would knock Tennessee out would be LSU running the table and upsetting Georgia in the SEC championship game, because the SEC champion is going to get in, whether it's a 2-loss team or if it's an undefeated team, obviously. But just on strength of schedule, those teams are going to get in. And I want to revert back really quickly to LSU, Arkansas. I have seen multiple reports that KJ Jefferson could be out of this game tomorrow. And if he can't go, you can just forget it. I mean, LSU is going to be able to do whatever they want to. So just be aware of that possibility. And again, I mean, the quarterback position, guys, isn't very important in this modern day and age of college football, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, I don't remember it being more important because of the way the offenses are run, and it's given a huge advantage to the offenses versus the defenses. That's why we see so many points scored. But as far as the play on the field, we have so many smart people on this show, Jimmy. You know this every day, telling us the game's as good as it's ever been or better. Now the defense, that drives defensive coordinators crazy. But when all the rules, Bo Carter, you can agree. I mean, you remember all the rule changes are favoring the offensive players, and there hadn't been anything done to help defense in a while, has there?
No, and Rob, you and Jimmy would have enjoyed, pardon me, last week, the the SMU Houston game, 77-63, 140 points scored in the regulation.
That was unbelievable.
Both teams were so gassed. The defensive people were down there with their hands on their knees, just trying to get the game over. But I think there were like 1,380 yards total offense and 16 touchdown passes thrown. So it was the aerial circuit. And you're right, the defense had no chance against those two. One of the quick points you guys made too, and Jimmy, this is where I love like the old AP polls or in the bowl championship series controversies. You always love it when they're like 3 undefeated teams, then 8 teams with 1 loss.
Yeah,
the Big Ten's griping, the Pac-12's griping, the Big 12's griping, and TCU and Baylor got left out in the cold. What was it, in 2014, the first year, and they were all making quite a bit of a stink about it or whatever. So it's that's the best thing about college football. Just people are talking about it 365 days a year, honestly.
Well, I remember when Pat Dye got the Auburn job in January of '81. He said, I've been at East Carolina for 6 years. He went 48-18-1 up there. He said in North Carolina, I was over in Greenville at East Carolina. but people in that state talking 12 months a year about, back then, Dean Smith's 4 corners, he goes, I go out to Wyoming for a year, and hell, they're talking about the rodeo all the time. And I love a good, rodeo, but he said, you come down here in Alabama in the deep South, they're talking about college football every damn day. And that's what we love. But, go back to what Baylor and Jimmy, boy, we were talking about this a lot. Ron Roberts got his start at Delta State, I know, and I think at Southeast Louisiana, the creeper defense. And I know I like to just take things out before people say, well, what about this? We know that Matt Corral was injured early in the Sugar Bowl, Ole Miss Baylor. But man, Baylor's defense, if you think they don't play good football in the Big 12, they do. And Dave Aranda, that guy can coach defense. I mean, he was at Wisconsin, LSU. He knows what defense is, and combine that with Ron Roberts. But I think the Big 12, with what's going on at Kansas, and we don't know, what are you hearing about the Nebraska job? They're in the Big 10, obviously, but I wish they were still in the Big 12. Maybe we could trade. I don't know. Missouri probably belongs back in the Big 12 or the Big 10, but there's going to be some changes, we think. But Lance Leopold at Kansas, what do you think is going to happen with him and that Nebraska opening, and Matt Campbell as well?
You just mentioned the 2 names that have been most prominently mentioned, and Mickey Joseph, the Nebraska coach, actually won a couple of games, started to turn things around, and then they hit Minnesota and Purdue and just sort of lapsed back into what the problems that Nebraska's been having. But Leopold at Kansas, and then Matt Campbell, who's 4-5 this year, but they've had a really tough schedule. They're probably the 2 front runners at this point.
Okay, Jimmy Hodge, jump back in here with Bo Carter. Bo, the Football Foundation, Baseball Writers of America, and formerly long time in the Big 12 office out in Dallas-Fort Worth, and 12 years as SID at Mississippi State University. This man knows a thing or two about college football, basketball, baseball. That's why Jimmy's going to ask him some hardcore questions, like 60 minutes.
We were talking last week last week we were talking with Bill Hancock about that 2014 situation with the first year of the 14 playoff, and really the Big 12 had nobody to blame but itself, because had it had a championship game, no matter who would have won, whether it was TCU or Baylor, they would have frozen Ohio State out, because the winner would have had a victory in their championship game over either the number 3 or number 4 ranked team. And that Ohio State opening game loss at the Horseshoe to Virginia Tech was so egregious that it really hampered them all year long, especially considering the fact, I think, that the very next week Virginia Tech lost their opener to a group of 5 program, and that made it even worse. But by TCU and Baylor not able to get a victory of that magnitude in their championship game, it allowed Ohio State to jump them. And it was very unfortunate, but that's the importance of having these championship games. But I wanted to ask you, though, if you're as shocked as I am over the last year and a half at how the Big 12 has rebounded from the shock of learning that Texas and Oklahoma are joining the SEC, because I thought Bob Bowlesby's work was just critical in saving the league, and not only doing that, but with the quality of teams he was able to bring in with UCF, Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati, and now with Brett Yormark coming in there, and landing these 2 big TV network agreements. Did you have any idea the Big 12 would be in the position they are right now after what we were looking at, 16 short months ago?
No, Jimmy, you're great points. And I was going to say, too, if you notice, the Big 12 reinstated the championship game 3 years later. It did cost them. You're exactly right. They had dropped it when they went down to 10 teams and then got an NCAA waiver to go ahead and do it. You guys, quick side note, Rob, you probably, and Jimmy, you know about this. The way the SEC, pardon me, was able to have the first 12, conference championship divisions in 91. There was an NCAA Division II rule on the books, I think, for the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, that they could have a conference championship game at the end of the year because they had 12 or more teams. And Roy Kramer, the brilliant SEC commissioner, said, well, if it applies for Division II, it should, pardon me, apply for Division I. And he said, we're going to play it in 91 when they expanded the league. So, man, the brilliance of Roy Kramer. But no, Jimmy, totally good points. Bob Bowlesby saved the Big 12. They got quality teams in there. Now they're talking about Gonzaga and basketball, which would really be – and maybe Gonzaga can crank its football program up again, Rob. I don't know. For 50 years.
Yeah.
Marquette.
Oh, my God.
But no, Bowlesby saved the league, and then Yormark's really just – I mean, this guy's a marketing genius and a digital one of the best digital – sort of like Klobuchar at Pac-12 with inventing Hulu, but Yormark's really a go-getter, and he said he wants to put the Big 12 brand back on the national stage. So it's been a very interesting 16, 18 months.
It really has. I mean, and God, they've done a great job. And then, you look at a guy like Mike Orasco, he was the one who really got hit hard because the American Athletic Conference in the last 5 years has been right up there knocking on the door of the Power Five. And then they lose Central Florida, Cincinnati, Houston, and tell you what, University of Memphis, Dr. Hargraves, a new president, came up from Auburn after he was the provost and the dean of the College of Business down there. He's doing everything he can, but they have got to decide to split or get off the pot, University of Memphis, what they're going to do, because you look at the University of Houston, but they've got so much money in Houston. It's ridiculous. Memphis has a lot of money. There are 5 billionaires that live in Memphis. 5. Okay. But you can't expect them to fund everything. They've got what you've got to do is have a populist movement. But you look at what Bob Bowlesby he got blindsided, but he did not sit there and have a pity party. He got back up and he got back in the fight. So I think it's one of the bigger stories. And then, you mentioned, and Jimmy talked a lot about George Kliavkoff coming from Las Vegas in the entertainment business. And then you look at your commissioner of the Big 12, golly, what he's done. And is the Big 12 now going to be the only school with a deal with Fox and ESPN? Am I correct, Bo Carter?
I think that's right. The Big Ten, sort of, it did went a little bit the other way for theirs year before, and the Pac-12 is really working hard with Amazon Prime to get some sort of an NFL type package, which would really up there. In fact, I read one estimate that their TV payoff is going to go from like 33 million, which has been for Alaska, to 40 to 45 million. And I think that could keep the Pac-12 together probably.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to take a break, come back with more, but these TV deals and the ones that you see for the Big Ten are just BSC. I mean, bat split crazy. I don't, again, with the expansion, looking at those crowds at Southern Cal and UCLA games, I don't know where these people are coming from, but we'll talk more about it right after this quick break on Friday's Sidelines Football and Basketball Blitz.
Hewlett and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House Equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Bo Carter. Bo, let me ask you something about the Big 12 office. It's right there in Dallas. You've got Conference USA, you've got American Athletic Conference, you've got the Big 12, of course, and then the College Football Playoff Association headquarters there. Bill Hancock is there. Is it all in one tight-knit area, kind of like downtown Birmingham with, you've got UAB, Progressive Stadium, holy cow. The new stadium, I'm drawing a blank here, in Birmingham, but bottom line, they've got the SEC office, Jefferson County, Civic Center, now Legacy Arena. You've got the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. It's all right there together. Is it like that in Dallas?
Yes. And kudos to my cousin Goodlow Rutland, the architect for the old Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center before, like in the 70s. Great place for the old SEC basketball tour. No, you're right. They're all within Conference USA moved about 2 miles out, close to the airport. But the great thing, they're like a 15-minute drive from DFW International Airport and probably 20 minutes from Love Field. So that's that was the big selling point. The city of Irving has done a great job. I don't know if they're paying $1 a year rent for those facilities or whatever, but they
$1, Randolph. Pay
a few tax breaks out.
Yeah. Well, it is Protective Life. It's Protective Life Stadium. I go by there a lot, and Protective Life, the city of Birmingham. It didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was a $175 million project. Mm-hmm. That's not just UAB people. That's Auburn. That's Alabama. That's Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee. The Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club is the greatest civic club in America. I mean, they'll give out this year probably over $1.5 million to places like Children's Hospital of Alabama and whatever. But it's just amazing what they've done. I think the SEC pays downtown Birmingham, Bo and Jimmy, $1. Pay up, Mortimer. That's $1. And we ruined our nephew Winthorpe's life for $1. But it is just amazing to me, the synergy that reverberates from Dallas, Fort Worth out there for college football. And I'm just glad that the Big 12, they reacted quickly, and now they're getting a lot of press, and they're getting more money. We need the Pac-12 to do the same thing. The ACC, we'll talk more about them later. I don't understand their commissioner. I mean, golly, he's like a tortoise. He's afraid to come out of his shell.
Former AD at Northwestern, so I think those guys pretty much just sat around and counted the money over there, as Jimmy, from being in the Chicago area too. But Rob and Jimmy, speaking of Birmingham again, the one thing I'm really just petrified about, I just hope they don't tear down Legion Field. So many, such great history. Maybe they can make it into a football museum or something. But y'all remember state championship? If you ever saw the movie Woodlawn, they filmed a lot of that over there with about the Alabama running back and Shorty White and all those guys. So Tandy Gerald, who's a good friend of the family or whatever. So it's boy, don't let Jimmy or Rob, if you have to lay across the bulldozers, don't let them bulldoze Legion Field, please.
Well, and Woodlawn High School there. I mean, Bobby Bowden went there. It is a famous school. David Langner, Auburn legend. Both touchdowns and punt, Bama punt. The 50th anniversary is about to come upon us. You think about, Carlos Dansby played there. Chris Davis, the kick six, he ran it back. They're not going to keep him off the field tonight. Woodlawn is one of the most legendary high schools, and it's like Melrose High School in Memphis. Mm-hmm. And you just that's sacred ground, like a burial mound or something. You can't let anything happen to it. But Legion Field, the old gray lady, man, the Tide and Tiger liquor store over there. Wow. Hey, you could park your car anywhere and somebody's going to come up and say $20,
And the Bear and Mama's was right next to it.
Hey,
They had two or three spots, but guys, I think they could do a lot worse than maybe extend that and make it part of the historical restoration district, and maybe reduce the facility maybe to a 30,000 seat stadium where you could have premier high school games, playoff games, state championship games, combining it with maybe the history of Southern football, because we all used to see it on the upper deck right below it. Welcome to Birmingham, football capital of the South. And maybe celebrate that with a museum, celebrating not only football at all levels of Alabama, but just having all these historical artifacts as part of a museum.
Well, let me say this too. In Memphis, Bo, you're familiar with the Mid-South Coliseum, Monday Night Wrestling. I say you make it a wrestling hall of fame, International Wrestling Hall of Fame, and Legion Field, because of the tradition there and what it did, helping to put football on the map in the South. You got to save it. I mean, you make it a museum of Southern football history, and you close it in, but you make it a museum like that or something, or as Jimmy says, the premier location for big time high school football games. And you could start having games played there in high school like Atlanta does with Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But I think we need to think about that. And possibly we could have a statue out in front of Mildred in Beechwood. Ow. Yo, man, made me holler. But we could do something like that. Bo, you know who Mildred is. She's 117 this year, we think. And she has a niece, Petunia, that lives in Tuscaloosa. I met Petunia recently at Taco Casa. I'll leave it at that. Lost my appetite. But anyway, Jimmy, jump back in here with Bo Carter.
Well, Bo, you'd mentioned earlier where things exploded for the SEC with the first SEC championship game. And Roy Kramer, it's true that he was the guy that signed the original TV contract with CBS, but we would all be remiss if we didn't credit Harvey Schiller for coming up with the original idea, because he was the first guy to call Walter Ayers, the president of the NCAA, and he had been in that position for probably at least 30 years. And Harvey said, Walter, I'm looking in the NCAA rule book, and I don't see anything in here that says we couldn't establish two divisions and play a championship game. And Walter's response cannot be repeated on a family radio show.
Women and children.
But that's where it got started. And Harvey Schiller was an amazing visionary. And then when he left to take over, I think, the U.S. Olympic Committee, that Roy Kramer took the reins and then signed the TV deal. And then that first championship game, which I was at, it's maybe the coldest I've ever been at a game. that set the tone for the SEC being the premier football conference, because by having the CBS contract, the SEC game of the week every Saturday was shown on every CBS affiliate in the country. So all college football fans were exposed to the quality and the electricity of SEC football, whereas with ABC, they had 4 regional games, and they didn't really catch up for at least 15 years, and the SEC's never looked back.
No, they haven't. And Jimmy, you pointed that out. Bo, I don't know if you know Harvey Schiller or not. I think he's 82 years old, the Colonel. Here's a, I'm broadcasting this. I'm putting it out there. We want Commissioner Harvey Schiller as a guest on Sidelines. I'm going to put my operatives on it. I'll put Niedermeyer on it. He's a sneaky little snit. But anyway, Dean Warmer helped me out, man, on that one. But Bo, hang with us in just a moment. Loran, what do you got quickly? Well, there, Auburn just running that football on that left side, leaning on Bo Jackson now, and Georgia having a hard time out there. Coach Dooley concerned, but I think the Dogs are hanging there. All right, that's enough there. 81 seconds left. Bo Carter comes to the line of scrimmage. Hodge in the backfield, along with Ken Capps at wide out, and the Dogs facing the live and die situation. Who will ever forget 1984? I'm pulled up in front of the Phi Mu dorm at Auburn to pick up my girlfriend at the time, and the Georgia-Clemson game comes down to that last field goal at the end of the game, tied at 24, and I'll never forget Larry Munson says, and now they're going to ask Kevin Butler to come out here and kick it from 100,000 miles. From Stone Mountain, Georgia, Redan High School, Kevin Butler. Man, Loran has been doing this since 1972, Bo, which is just in the pregame show. I'm just telling you, and Loran gets kind of bashful because he's such a humble, he's incredible. But he talked, Billy Roberts and I were over there for the Georgia-Kentucky game in Athens last year, and just watching the line of people to come to the 3.5-hour pregame show on the Georgia Network to get a picture with Loran, an autograph. And Jimmy was with us, and Billy Roberts, my wife Audrey, and I went to lunch at the Athens Country Club with him a year ago, June. I mean, it was like being out in Beverly Hills in the day in Hollywood with Merv Griffin, everybody coming up to him. Loran, we love it. Well, let's do lunch. Loran, let's. And he's just sitting there like, going, well, it's just nothing. No, he is so cool. My wife goes, man, when I'm, Loran, he's a young guy. He's 81 or 82. She goes, I want to be like that when I'm easy. He doesn't slow down. He's up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning for a 5 to 10 mile walk, depending on, how many hills there are. He only likes it when there's tough hills. But anyway, you got to love the people that tell you the stories and bring these games to you. Okay. But hang on with us, Bo, because Loran's got a few minutes to join us because he is buried deep in Writers Central, where he does his games, and make sure that when he's on here, I want to hear about the progress on his book, but just his thoughts on this Georgia team, because Dan Lanning left to go to Oregon, and now he's got his team at number 6 in the rankings, although they got beat by Georgia, who's number 1 in that first game. But, you had a chance in your years, 12 at Mississippi State as an SID, and then you've been around in here, and you think, I don't care what anybody tells you, radio is as important as it's ever been. And I love it because you get so much more information when you sync the game on TV with your radio network. And all you got to do is pause for a 2.5 to 3 seconds, your TV, and let the radio catch up to it, or your app on your iPhone, because you can follow anybody. And you got the best of both worlds, don't you, Bo?
Radio's big. And Loran, gosh, he's Mr. Georgia Bulldog. Man, what a amazing 50 years. Always funny. He's once me. Loran's been big in the National Football Foundation in Athens. He's run the chapter over there for several years with the great scholarship program. Just one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the thing about him is, he understands the relationships, all these schools. I mean, sure, we've got rivalries and everything like that, but it's the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to keep it going. And I think as we go forward, and Jimmy and I, we're so blessed every day to get to talk to people like you and Ken Capps, Jason Caldwell, because, we're here to serve. I mean, we're here to serve our listeners and to get the word out. The passion comes through loud and clear in the people that broadcast these games and cover them. And you think Loran was the first sideline reporter, 50 years ago. I mean, there wasn't anybody doing that. And today, here it is 50 years later. I said, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you with Larry Munson on the Georgia broadcast games? And he said, well, he goes, I one time did an interview on the sidelines before a game, and went back up to Larry, and he said, great job, Loran, but you had a dead mic. Believe me, trust me, we do this live show every day, and every now and then something goes wrong and someone says, I can't hear your guest. I'm like, well, you can hear me. Can you hear me? But Tommy, can you hear me? But I just think about it, the passion and the interest in college football out in the Big 12, SEC, all over the country. But man, there's a revival of sorts going on in college football. 2 years ago, you remember Jimmy and I were fighting it with people on this show, And I mean, it got like, hey, come on, man, we're going to play football in the South if it shorts everybody. You know, we're going to do it, and we'll find a way to do it. And my theory was, you're dealing with the most disciplined athletes in the world, Division I, Division II, Division III college football players who voluntarily get up at 4:30 in the morning to work out, get yelled at by a strength coach, typically who's just, you know, screaming obscenities, which the decorum prohibits me listing here. But that's the thing about it. And the fans, oh, well, they'll find other things to do with their time. You know, we're going to lose all these fans. Let me tell you something. Those people that think like that were people that were worried, you know, anytime America's ever been in a crisis, that we wouldn't come back. You know, but the fans, I read an interesting thing. Steve Shaw, the coordinator of NCAA officials, was quoted about just the decibel levels in the football stadiums this year, louder than ever. You keep hearing over and over and over about all that. But you know what? The fans, who owns college football? The fans do. Our good friend, Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com, has orangeandbluebloods.com, and you take the loyalty oath. And we're going to switch down there, head down there on the sidelines. And Loran, quickly, what do you got?
Well, I got through my coffee this morning and did a series of radio shows around the state and trying to get some last-minute details before flying to Starkville. And you've been there before, Rob. Starkville is a very enthusiastic enclave of maroon bulldogs. So
that's right.
They've got the classic comedian for a head coach. It's funny.
No, hey, I love it. What we're going to do, Bo Carter is on with us right now, Loran and Jimmy Hodge, and we're going to take a break here in a minute when we come back. We love having you on here, but you're right. This is the battle of the Bulldogs. Now, over here, they call them, Bo, you were at Mississippi State for 12 years. Jump in here with Loran Smith before the break.
Yeah, Bo's one of the all-time greats. Are you still living in Dallas?
Yes, and Lauren, I wish we could go to Bob Hartley's house and have a blackjack tonight. That would be a lot of fun.
Bob Hartley, one of the great timers. Several been in this league. Colorful, interesting guy who loved Mississippi State. He loved college football. So wish Bob was still around to do as you say, pour us about a glass of blackjack.
Lauren, I'm driving to Athens to read your book when it comes out. I'll be the first. I want to get an autographed copy when you have your first signing over there.
Well, if you drive to Athens, I'll make sure you get one. Nobody has ever given me that compliment.
Hey, I would hitchhike to get over there. I love your book, Loran. What do you got? It's every one of those stories is an unyet told episode on the Andy Griffith Show. It's true grit journalism. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back with Loran Smith, Bo Carter, Jimmy Hodge, Rob Browne on Sidelines.
Now more than ever, it is so important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. God bless the USA.
All right, Rob Browne back here with this great group. Again, Loran Smith, Bo Carter, Jimmy Hodge. And again, happy Veterans Day. Thanks to all of our veterans and those who have gone on to heaven and those who are still active duty, the retired folks like Dave Baker, my brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, 26 years in the Marine Corps. Never ask you for anything. All they do is they're great. Let them know how grateful that you are. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Those of you that doubt that obviously have not traveled outside of the U.S. I've been to 26 countries so far. Never once when I got back did I not kiss the ground and thank God that I was born in the United States of America. Damn right. All right, let's get back to Loran Smith. And Loran, what do you got? We love hearing from you. And big win last weekend, but something we have not talked about with you on the air. And I was in Atlanta, it was 2 weeks ago when it was announced that Vince Dooley passed away. And I know you were very close to him. And I saw Ralph Jordan the next day and his wife Eve over in Auburn. And it just brought me back to the reason that I have so much respect for my rivals like Georgia. that was mine. If I didn't go to Auburn, I was going to go to Georgia. If I didn't go there, I'd go to Clemson. But I've always loved these rivalries, but I love the relationships that down through the years carry on and that remind us how we need to act no matter what.
Well, Senator Browne, that was a nice speech you just made. You could package that and sell it. The politicians ought to buy that testimony. Well, we naturally hated to see Vince go. You always hate to lose a family member, and we considered him part of the Georgia family. But I look at it this way. Vince came from a family that's got a little history of heart disease, and he made it his business to get up every day of his life and work out. He had his own set of calisthenics that he did, hotel room. If he was in Denver, if he was in Dubai, he was going to get up and start his day with exercise. And while I'm not a doctor or a medical expert in any way, shape, or form, I think that prolonged his life. Mm-hmm. So he got to do everything he wanted to do. And I thought about this, you're probably too young to remember, when Kennedy was assassinated, an NBC newsman who was an advocate of the president said, we mourn not so much his passing, we mourn what he might have been. Mm-hmm. That was Sandy Van Oker. And his point was that Kennedy, with his youthfulness and his ability, could have been a great world leader had he lived. Well, I thought of Vince, and then I thought of Sandy Van Oker's comment about John Kennedy. Vince got to do everything he wanted to do. He lived to be 90, and there's nothing left on his bucket list. So I think if you put it in context of what he was able to achieve and what he was able to do, then living to be 90 and having his resume, not a bad life at all.
No, not at all. And you get one trip to the plate, and he, by God, made it count. And you were so fortunate. I know how close you were. And just, I think about when I was in Atlanta, and I texted you and Tony Barnhart and different people I know, DGDs, damn good dogs. My friends like Robert Durham, that down in Bowden, Georgia, and John Hearn, and Monroe, Georgia, and all the, Paul Wickenheiser, a friend of mine listening right now. He gets up early in the morning out there at 6 o'clock in Reno, Nevada. He is a dog for life out there. He guy goes hunting in the desert wearing his Georgia red and black somewhere. He's got it on him. So every time you're on, he goes, man, I got to have me some Loran. So, Loran, you think about, as Billy Roberts, you've met Billy, my roommate from Auburn, talked about Coach Dooley would say, well, we just hope we have enough players to get on the field and go, but we're just not sure, that a really big opponent there, and we'll just see if we can, play the full 60. But, boy, Dooley's dogs, 201 wins later, national championship, 6 SEC titles, great legacy there. Jimmy, jumping here with Loran Smith, Georgia broadcast crew since 1972, accomplished author, and already I'm getting the comments about you cannot get any better of a wordsmith than Loran Smith, quoting, very enthusiastic enclave for maroon bulldogs, priceless. If you don't think that the English language and a command of it and word wealth is important, you had never read anything that Loran Smith writes.
Hold on. My English teacher's still living. So you're going to have at least one disclaimer.
Well, no, but it is, your writing is special. But Jimmy, jumping here with Loran Smith.
Well, Loran, you're talking about getting ready to go to Starkville today, and I'm guessing the flight comes into Columbus. And with that thought in mind, I thought it would be maybe a good idea for you to maybe share a couple of the more interesting plane rides maybe you've had to the many road destinations that the dogs have played in. And I can remember specifically, this was 26 years ago. I was listening to Larry broadcasting a Georgia Auburn game at Jordan Hare. And evidently for a couple of those road games at Auburn, you guys took a private jet. The team went on maybe 2 separate private jets. And Larry on the air said that, man, we got there in about 20 minutes. He goes, this works for me. And I just wanted you to maybe reminisce on a couple of those trips and, and maybe the trip Larry was talking about, and just share some of these experiences, because I've got to imagine you've got 3 or 4 classics.
Well, I don't remember flying that jet. I don't think George.
Well, maybe it was just Larry and a couple of guys, but but I was listening to the game and he was talking about it on air. But it was a long time. It was like 25 years ago. Yeah, man, we barely get up in the air, and then all of a sudden we're there. I tell you what, I like this. I mean, just in Larry fashion. But
well, in most of those days,
have you had any really interesting trips?
Well, I think I drove. Sometimes I drive because I want to do something. Like in Kentucky, I want to go to the horse farms. I got friends up there. I like to go to the distilleries, so I drive. But one time flying home from Kentucky, I think this was the most eventful flight, when some smart aleck on our team went into the bathroom and wrote, "There's a bomb on this plane," on the mirror. So you can imagine the consternation that caused.
Oh, gosh.
And Monday, he was no longer a member of the team, Vince. But anyway, I remember that one, but I was not on the flight, and I think it's because I was driving.
Well, were you on the flight after the national championship win over Notre Dame? And if you were, I can imagine that was pretty boisterous. And have there been a couple of similar flights maybe like that after big wins you can remember that stand out?
Well, after that game, we stayed over and flew home the next day. So by that time, the kids are pretty expended and people are taking naps and maybe reading something. They didn't have iPhones back then in 1980.
Yeah.
So it was we flew 3 planes, one for the team, one for the official party, then one for the auxiliary party. And I was on one of the second planes, or second or third plane. I didn't fly with the team. I just made the arrangements for the most part, seating and all of that. But I don't remember anything other than you just feeling so good, just dozing off, smug in your feelings that you won the championship. And in my case, I knew there was going to be a book, or I felt like there was going to be one. So I was just sitting and doodling and making plans, thinking what ought to be in that book. And everybody enjoyed the flight home, and it was cheerful. But I don't think anybody has been served alcohol on a team charter. I won't say that there wasn't some snuck into the cabin.
Yeah. Loran, what this Georgia right now, last week, that win over number 1 ranked Tennessee, Georgia's criticisms were, they haven't played anybody really tough since Oregon, and Tennessee had played a lot of tough games, but both times that the bell was rung and Georgia was called up to play Oregon in the first game, Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta, 49-3. And then later in the season, week 10, they play number 1 ranked Tennessee. They've given up in those 2 games 3 field goals and 1 touchdown. Georgia held the nation's number 1 offense, Tennessee, 55 minutes without a touchdown. Yet I still heard some living brain donors complaining about the rain. And I just checked, Loran, and you back me up on this one. It rained on everybody in Athens.
Yes, and our fans, the Georgia fans, liked it. They considered it showers of blessings.
There you go.
They were dancing, and there was no alcohol restrictions where they were sitting. I can guarantee you that. So it was a fun time. Everybody just felt great. And everybody asked, that was the greatest game ever. And, everything, great games in college football, like beauty being in the eye of the beholder. You've got to appreciate the past. For example, everybody said, well, this is the greatest game ever played. Well, if it doesn't lead to something, and I certainly would never belittle the Georgia-Tennessee game in any way, but for example, in 1942, Georgia Tech was undefeated, came to Athens. We played them with the Rose Bowl invitation on the line. The winner gets to go to the Rose Bowl. Now, I wasn't there and don't know anybody who was. I don't think it could have been any wilder. People were different back then in terms of conduct. Wasn't as much rudeness and bad language, I'm sure, back then. But it's like Charlie Trippey once told me that he said they don't hit any harder today than they did in my time, because there's only one way to hit as hard as you can.
Yes.
Well, I can't imagine people being able to yell louder today than they could in 1942. It's just a different scene and setting. But I think in my time, being at Georgia, I don't think there's ever been a game where the intensity, the vocal intensity from start to finish was ever greater than it was at Tennessee. They started before kickoff and they did not let up. My son lives in Dallas, and Sunday morning I went to get him for breakfast. He says, I'm hoarse. Says, I did what my leader asked me to do. And that's
right.
One of the amazing things about Kirby. He communicates with everybody, players. He asked his first year on the job. He gets the job in December. First time he had a chance to speak out, he asked the Georgia fans to fill up the stadium. We never filled up the stadium in G-Day game.
Yeah.
Spring game, it was a full house. So he put so much into it. I think when he asks the fans to do something, they do.
Yeah. Well, you look at this Georgia program right now, and it's even we had yesterday Gary Harris on here from Tide 100.9 said Georgia's the program in the SEC right now, and Kirby seems real comfortable in that role. And I watch a lot of these inside programs on the SEC where they mic them up in practice, but he's going up and making contact with every player in the warm-ups and just having fun with them and stuff. But they know that he is the boss and that they better work their tail off or they ain't going to be on that field. He gets his message across, and that's why I think the Georgia fans did what he said. I mean, it's easy to follow a leader who is genuine.
Well, that's a good point. And Kirby's surname defines him. He's very smart. So he will figure all the angles. And he's always positive and he's always upbeat. The students relate to him. When he asks the students didn't come before start of the game here for the longest period of time. When Kirby said, we need your help, heck, they were there.
Yeah.
When kickoff comes now, even if it's some lesser school, the students are in place, ready to go. I've got one sitting across from me. He really appreciates Georgia. He's from Oklahoma City, picked out Georgia. That was a great day for my friend Brandon.
Very great day.
He's nodding when I say the students listen.
Yeah. Well, they did.
And his parents, Ashley and Browne, are here. They came in for the weekend, and they're big Oklahoma fans, as you would expect. But now they're saving room in their heart and enthusiasm for Georgia. So they've become a two-headed monster.
Well, you think about, golly, speaking of Oklahoma, Georgia, that game in the Rose Bowl when Sony Michel went around left in for the touchdown. What a classic game that was. Loran, we're about out of time, and I know you've got a big day ahead of you. And, again, those of you Loran Smith, 6 books on the Masters, 63 consecutive appearances at the Masters without a miss, multiple books on Georgia. but just a first-class gentleman, and reminds us, you're right, the language, everything. My dad's 94 years old. He's listening to you right now, Loran. He goes, I was at that 1942. He goes, I sound 10th grade. Hey, every time I go through Columbus on Victory Drive on the way out to Fort Benning, there's Memorial Stadium, and I think about Zeke Smith, former Auburn player, said, well, when we played there at the stadium in Columbus, the locker rooms were so small, we had to take turns by position group to get dressed while the rest of us stood outside and waited our turn. But you know what? That's the great thing about tradition. Loran, just got a few seconds to go. Let people know about your book and when it's coming out. And as always, we appreciate so much you taking time to join us. You remind us why we love college football. It's about the people, great people like you.
Well, the point about that Georgia-Auburn game in Columbus, it only seated about 23 or 4,000, but I think 5,000 got in somehow or other. Coach Jordan famously said, the Auburn coach, if you got up and went to the bathroom, you lost your seat. Squeezed in there. The book will be available in the spring. I still got 2 or 3 little things to mop up, but the manuscript's finished. They're laying out and designing it now. It'll be printed in Asia, so it just takes a while to do a book.
All right. Well, look, we always, again, thank you so much, and look forward to our next visit. Y'all have a safe trip to Starkville, and the DAWGS, I believe, will get the W as the quest, and get ready for another book, Loran. But anyway, thanks so much, everybody. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and help people with the expectation of getting nothing in return, and thank a veteran today. Buy them around the drinks, buy them the dinner, breakfast, lunch, whatever, but look them in the eye and say thank you. God bless America. See you tomorrow. We're out of here.